Hi folks, welcome back to 12 Hats Radio. I'm Dave Monk, and today we've got Scott Winterroth from Chicago in the USA. And Scott, with all my guests, can you give me a 3 minute elevator pitch for your business and podcast?
Cool. Oh, yeah, Dave, thanks so much for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Look, I'm really glad we connected. I'm an author and an entrepreneur, and basically, I kind of help people maximize their WordPress websites. Maybe so you have people who have websites, maybe they use WordPress. I kind of try to help people learn how to leverage their website and build a sustainable marketing system with their website. And yeah, that's I'm a coach and trainer and entrepreneur, freelancer. So yeah, do a little bit of it all and just try to help people kind of really elevate themselves to the next level using practical sort of strategies that make sense and knowing the what tools to use and when the right stuff to get the job done. So yeah, that's what I do.
Cool. And can you describe to me your average customer or listener?
Yeah, it could be anybody from like another entrepreneur, maybe just getting started, who has an idea for a business or for a brand, or wants to build their personal brand, to a larger company that maybe wants to elevate their sales strategy. Maybe they want to get more leads. They want to kind of use their website more than just like a brochure. They want to kind of maybe get into content marketing or other web strategies that sort of attract leads or attract visibility online. So yeah, it's a range. Mostly, right now, my business focuses mostly on small to mid-sized businesses, but I do have a pretty extensive background in corporate work.
All
But yeah, that's kind of who I'm at right now. It's really kind of anyone who's willing to listen. So yeah.
right. And have you had any success stories that you'd like to share with my listener?
Yeah, I think a lot of success stories. To me, I think that actually, I think one of my most interesting success stories is a personal story that was maybe not a super huge success, but it was in long term was a great success for me personally. Actually, many years ago, back in 2008, I started a country music blog. I mentioned this too when we were
Mm.
prior to our show that I started a country music blog. And if you're not familiar with Chicago and Illinois, Chicago is a very urban metropolitan city, and it's not
Mm.
really known for country music per se. It's kind of like a country music in the States is more of like a southern kind of thing. Believe it or not, we actually have a really big country music sort of following in the city. So I decided back in 2008 that other than like a country music radio station, there wasn't like any sort of like online resource for local fans who were looking for like concerts or reviews or any way for there wasn't any other type of community except for the radio station. And radio is a one-way platform. It's just the radio announcer talking to the people and talking to the listeners, and I wanted to create sort of a two-way thing. So I created this really sort of community and a blog, and it was excellent. I had a lot of fun doing it. I got to photograph and meet some of the biggest stars in the business at the time, and I made a little bit of money here and there, but it wasn't a super huge success. It wasn't something that like made me want to like, I couldn't like quit my job to do it kind of thing. So that sort of led me down a path to getting into consulting, getting into training, and really kind of doubling down on my digital marketing skills. Because in order to do that blog, I had to learn search engine optimization. I had to learn how to use WordPress. I had to learn a lot of different skills, if you will, to build that community. And that learning those skills has really kind of led me down to live with more of like a growth mindset and kind of like learn. I like to learn a lot, and I like to do, and I do by sort of making mistakes, by failing forward, I like to call it. John
Mm.
Maxwell's a prolific author, always says failing forward. He's got a book called Failing Forward, and I totally agree with that. You have to kind of just go out there and do things
Mm.
in order to learn how to do it, right? So
Yeah.
so through that blog, I learned how to do a lot of things, and then sort of today, I realized that what I was missing at that time was I didn't really have a product yet. I had an idea, I had a brand, and I had a community, but I didn't have a product, and that was one of the biggest problems that I realized, is that I need something that people are willing to pay for. And that's sort of what I talk about today. When whoever comes to me and wants to set up a blog or do a podcast or do some type of content marketing, I first sit down with them and say, what do you want to do? You have to have a product. Like, what are
Mm.
you really trying to sell here? Maybe it's your personal brand, right? Maybe it's a physical product that you actually ship to people, or maybe it is a product that has yet to be discovered, But at the end of the day, you have to be working towards selling something. And that's kind of what I help people with today, and actually kind of what my book is about. And that's one of the biggest success stories really is myself in terms of how I figured that out. And now I sit down and help businesses kind of figure that out before they go invest tons of small businesses to medium-sized businesses figure that out before they invest a ton of time and money into building a content marketing strategy when they don't really have a product to sell per se.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's a lot of truth there. And it's just a fairness. Have you had any failures? And speaking of failures, of course, and what were the lessons learned from those failures?
I think failures for me is sort of wrapped up in that story a little bit. Is I had this blog, it was great, but I stopped doing it. I stopped sort of investing my time into doing this blog and also investing my money because it cost a little bit of money to run this blog. It had a lot of traffic, and at the time, it was just more expensive to do that kind of stuff. So I failed in the sense that I kept investing into a product that didn't really exist, right?
Yeah.
But the positive was I learned a lot in what not to do in the future, right? So failures are, to me, there's no such thing as failure. I don't think of it as a bad word. I think that you learn more from your mistakes than what you'll ever learn from your successes. So to me, they're priceless. In fact, if you haven't failed, you're not doing it right, in my opinion. So
Exactly right. So, if you don't know failure, how can you succeed? Because you don't know what to measure yourself against. I mean, it's just
right.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
And what's driving your curiosity right now?
Yeah, to me, I think we're recording this. It's like April 30th. Actually, it's probably already March 1st for you.
It is, yeah.
Right now, yeah, it's April 30th for me. So we're in the middle of the COVID. At least here in the States, we're in the middle of the COVID-19 sort of lockdown or stay-at-home orders. So I think, in terms of curiosity, I'm watching a lot of like what would be traditional business or traditional events kind of go online, which I think is interesting. I'm trying to figure out, how can I take some of my in-person events and put them online? I actually just attended a couple of events online. I think people did. It ended up being it worked out really well. So I'm excited to see more online events because I actually like doing them, but I have a hard time getting people to come to them. So that I think that's a cool thing. That's driving my curiosity. And also, like, what's the world going to be like, in the future? But you could say that any day, the COVID or not. I mean, the world changes every single day. But to me, I think that there's a huge opportunity for people in the content creation space to really kind of go to the next level, because more people are sort of forced online. We almost have like a captive audience right now.
Yeah.
With people being at home, and I think that's a huge opportunity. I kind of wish I was leveraging it more right now than what I am. But talking about wins and losses and failures and successes, you don't know until you know. So who knows? What looks like a failure today could be a huge success because maybe it waited to just the right time for it to happen. So.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also an even playing field at the moment. Look at all the talk show hosts over in the US. Like Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, and Trevor Noah. They're all at home, so we're all in this together. Quite literally, that we're all sitting at home making content in the same even keel. And I think that's it's no better time to be a content marketer than right now. And if you're not on the bike yet, you might be just about to miss it. So
yeah. You're in the right now. It's good to be in the water, because if you're in the water, you can catch the wave, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So one thing I love right now too is that it's just bringing a lot of people onto platforms like Zoom, who traditionally, like I've used Zoom for years, and I thought I was kind of a weird for it because people didn't like doing this stuff. Like I'd rather have a digital meeting. It's much more efficient than doing like an in-person event or meeting. Yeah. But now this is like forcing people to come online, which I like. I like in some ways because it just makes it easier to talk. I mean, look, we're talking to each other halfway around the world. I think that's awesome in a lot of ways, So
yeah.
So yeah.
Sure, cheaper than buying a plane ticket, and I can't be left out of the country at the moment. So
yeah, that's for sure.
I'm not even that out of my state. If 12-year-old Scott was to walk into your room right now, what advice would you give him?
Oh wow, 12 years old. That's an interesting year. I mean, I was really into like kind of organizing and leading even as a young age in scouts and stuff like that. So not like, so I'm trying to think. I actually really sort of wrote my book, not to self-promote too much, but I wrote my book almost like a letter to my younger self. Maybe not 12. Like I literally in the front of the book, I said if I was, writing a letter to myself, my 20-year-old self, I would mail this book saying this is what you should do in order to make your blog successful. But 12 is even harder. I think at 12 years old, I think it's would be a sort of a lesson in failure. Just like we talked about, that you're going to have lots of failures. You're going to make a lot of mistakes, but that's okay. That's all part of the process, and also that you are more creative than you think you are.
Yeah.
At 12 years old, I didn't think I liked to write. I would have never guessed I would become a writer at 12 years old, right? As a professional. But that's something that I've learned over the years that, in school and things and that I actually realized that I'm definitely not a mathematician. so I have to be a writer, right? So therefore that brought me down to that path. So I definitely would tell myself to enjoy reading, enjoy writing more, because you're going to have to do a lot of it as you get older.
Yeah.
So yeah. I hope that was a question. I can't remember. Something about your 12-year-old self, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think they all like that, eh? I think because I grew up in a country town and sport was life, but if you're creative, you're almost ostracized. But it's fascinating. One of the answers people come up with, and so
Yeah.
I had a guest on a few weeks ago say, "Stay away from her."
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Don't go there, man. And finally, is there any light-hearted stories I'd like to share with my listeners, and so to wrap up with?
Lighthearted stories, yeah, sure. I think I really try to live with a growth mindset and just have fun doing what I'm doing. I know that I've made many mistakes, and gosh, lighthearted though.
I'm hanging out for the NBA to come back.
Yeah, yeah,
and your Major League Baseball.
Yeah, well, I live in Chicago, so NBA and with the Bulls, it was Michael Jordan. That was a big thing here in the '90s. So for sure.
Yeah, you're surprised how big the NBA was in the '90s for every little kid growing up as well. Over here, that's Michael Jordan himself, and I had probably 3 or 4 pairs of Nike Air Jordans. I think that's probably the first real influencer, because he had that shoe, had that personal branding. I think that's what probably must driven my curiosity into this area.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Also, Michael Jordan and Oprah. Oprah is from Chicago too, or her show was in Chicago. So yeah, that whole period talking about personal branding for sure. Yeah. Definitely lots of powerhouses at that time.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks for coming on the show, Scott. And
yeah. Thanks for having me. Good luck. Yeah.
No worries. And there'll be a link to his book in my show notes too. Thank you, viewers.
Yeah. Yeah. If otherwise, you can go to blogyouwant.com/DAC for digital acquisition cycle. So yeah.